So what's going on, guys? My name's Mr. Dalek JD. Welcome back, where today I'm joined with my boy, Milo.
Hi, guys. Oh, dear. Okay, go ahead, John.
Dear. And today, me and Milo are going to just sit down and have a discussion because it's about a month before World War II Zombies drops, and we're both very excited. But we have a lot of stuff we want to talk about today, and we done this back when DLC 5 was just about to release, and we spoke about what maps we wanted to keep and what maps we wanted to bin, and you guys really enjoyed that format of that style of video, and it's always great to just sit down with you and just talk about zombies.
Right.
I feel like not a lot of people do that these days, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of value in just having a chat with your buds. So
yes,
I think that's what we'll be aiming to do here.
So we got a video here on my channel and also on Milo's channel. This one is going to be talking about what the gameplay urgently needs in order for it to be successful, to have a player base which is going to stay for years and years, which we hope is going to be the case.
That's what we need.
And we
need it.
We don't know too much about World War II Zombies at this current moment, so it's like we're going to get the discussion going. We need to start having this talk because otherwise we're just going to be sitting here like lemons waiting for something. You know what I mean?
Pretty much. I mean, I think I might have said this in the previous one we did, and I'll say it again here. If they're not going to advertise their goddamn game, we'll do it for them. Like, goodness gracious,
we'll be the martyrs. We'll advertise for them.
Exactly. That sounds like what we should be getting underway with shortly. So, John.
Yes.
Question is, what is the most important, or one of the 5 most important things you reckon World War II Zombies needs in order to be successful, in order to keep the players happy, in order to keep the old fans happy, all these things swirling around? What's your first pick? What do you reckon?
That's a big question you're asking me there, my friend. I'm going to say one of the big things that they need is innovation. And I know they say this every year. It's one of the big buzzwords, like innovation, verticality, boots on the ground. But you know what I mean? Like, zombies, we've had zombies for quite a while now, and I feel every game, there is a little bit of innovation in each one, but particularly from like when you see a game like Black Ops 3 and how just innovative that was, I don't blame the developers if they're scared at the sort of challenge of trying to be better and innovate more than that, but I feel they need to bring some innovation to the table. This is not their first rodeo, but it's their first, like, I think, well-efforted rodeo in zombies.
Yeah, it's the first serious look at a zombies mode for Sledgehammer going, this is something that we need to have worked into our plan from the very beginning, and this is something that we need to essentially like carry as one of the flagship modes of the game. Like, this isn't a side mode anymore. This is one of the trifecta of campaign, multiplayer, zombies. That's how things are now. And if they can't get the innovation that they need right, because you can innovate in the wrong way. Like, don't get us wrong. You've got things like Exo Zombies, and they made some cool changes, for sure, but they also made some decisions that a lot of people didn't like. Same with Extinction. A lot of people liked Extinction, but there were bits of the way that they innovated that just didn't work out for some players. And so that kind of, I guess, brings us on to another thing that we'll talk about in just a moment.
Sure.
They need to really look at what the community is currently playing, obviously the zombies that we've currently got, look at where that might go in the future, and then make some really smart decisions about the bridges they need to build in order to take us from now until the next game and the future of the IP, wherever it's going to go.
Yeah.
It's pretty damn important they get it right as well, because this is really their first one in this franchise of, like, World War II, the zombies mode being this separate universe to the campaign and zombies, and it's separate to separate to multiplayer and campaign, separate to stuff they've done in the past. Like, this is fresh. And if it goes badly, we'll probably never see it ever again. So that's not something we want to see. I'm sure
that's not what they want. They probably want to. They're going to build the foundations for what they hope will be like a long-running saga, a bit like Treyarch Zombies. And like, it's weird to think that could be the possibility, because it seems like every other studio apart from Treyarch can't seem to do that, which is a shame.
It's so weird that Treyarch have this special something that everyone just loves like crazy, and then you go to every other studio and it's just not quite there. But I honestly think that this year, if they get it just right on the head of the nail, if they completely perfectly execute this game, we could be looking at a full-on Tryout competitor for their next title sort of thing. Like,
I heavily
legitimately.
agree,
And
for sure.
I mean, that's pretty exciting stuff, man. Like, that gets me a little bit hyped for the future. So hopefully it all goes well, but I guess we'll sort of have to wait and see.
Yeah.
And I guess that's quite a nice segue into one of the other things that I think is going to just be completely vital for this game. I mentioned it a little bit a moment ago, is understanding the zombies audience, right?
Yes.
Currently, we've had a couple of different versions of zombies, but I feel like only Treyarch have really managed to truly understand why people are playing the game, and then push content out that is in that very style, in that very theme, the features, the story, all of it.
I completely agree with you. When you say like that, and we're talking about like sort of respecting the way that zombies should be played and what the mode actually is from the heart of it, and it is this survival wave round base mode. And I think you can agree here. We don't play zombies anymore to go for high rounds. We simply play it only for the Easter egg. That's literally it. And like, I guess it's just a shift in how we perceive zombies these days, and it's not like that's an issue, but like you mentioned, Treyarch seems to be the only studio that can literally have a big quest, but yet still find a way for you to want to go to high rounds and to make that enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the really interesting contrast that I can think of just straight away, because it's only just come out, is Destiny and Destiny 2 more recently have a very specific style where they obviously have their main mode, so they've got their sort of campaign and the multiplayer stuff, just like COD, but then because they've got this open world element, they can do all of the stuff that you might otherwise sort of do in another kind of RPG, but they also then have the raid, which is literally just a long Easter egg.
Yeah.
That's exactly what a raid is, and I think because they've made a very clear distinction between the RPG open worldy stuff and the raid. They are separate spheres. It means that they can put a huge amount of effort into making the raid, or for zombies that would be the Easter egg, cool, but they can also really keep people playing the other stuff at the same time as well.
I like
and
that.
It's just something that you don't really see so much in zombies. Like, the Easter egg is the map in a lot of ways. If it has a bad Easter egg, Rave in the Redwoods, for example, was solved so damn fast, and in that sort of situation, because the Easter egg is sort of perceived to be bad, it means that also people associate the map with being bad, and then no one plays the map, and no one cares about the map, no one wants to watch videos on it, etc., and people end up making videos on custom maps or whatever, and just going back to other content. So, having a real grasp for not only what the player wants and what the old school players are going to want, what the new school players are going to want, and bringing all those together, but also being able to do it in a way where they respect all of them at the same time, like they're providing content everywhere, it's just going to be vital. It's going to be so goddamn important, and I've got to say, it's not an easy task.
It's not easy by any means, yeah.
Like, even, like, me and you, John, we have been zombies YouTubers for years and years, and we've been playing zombies since the very beginning, but even us two, we play zombies for slightly different reasons. I'm a little bit more focused on, obviously the Easter egg is the same deal, but then I'm a little bit more focused on just really focusing on storyline type stuff. Maybe I won't even play a map and I'll just listen to quotes and that'll do me. Whereas you will still do other things, you'll still find ways to sort of innovate in the mode itself and make it fun. And the fact that we're so similar, and yet we do kind of different things, I mean, that's just a small example of the massive divide there is in the community between story and gameplay and Easter eggs and everything. So, it's going to be tough, but here's to hoping that they can figure it out, man. I mean,
like, when you think about it in retrospect, like, IW have done a pretty good job with the season of zombies, but when you think about it, they've really thrown themselves in, at least from my perspective, maybe you'll agree as well, that the maps are kind of focused on the Easter egg, and the survival and sort of going for high rounds is sort of not even really secondary. It's just something you don't even really think about. And then you get to that Mephistopheles boss fight, which is unreal. Like, I'm very happy they made that, but the sort of requirements for you to get that is so ridiculously difficult that, like, probably 1% of the player base will ever get to it.
It'll be even less. Yeah, it's really going to be... It's going to be such a small section of the player base, and the player base is already diminished anyway because people have certain maps that they didn't like, and they've fallen off the bandwagon over the year, so... Yeah, it's definitely not an easy feat, and I mean,
not at all.
hoping that Sledgehammer can kind of learn from Infinity Ward's mistakes or where they had difficulty and maybe sort of use that to their advantage. I mean, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, mate.
I mean, I guess that kind of leads into another thing as well, which Infinity Ward, in my opinion, haven't really managed to grasp fully this year.
Okay.
Just judging from the responses I've had on Twitter and YouTube, etc., is replayability, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's something about the game that, maybe because there's quite a heavy Easter egg focus, doesn't really keep me coming back and playing again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, you can speak to this as well, because you play much more than I do. There comes a point where you do everything in the map, and then you're like, well, I'm kind of done.
Yeah, it's just like, is there any point in me playing?
Yeah. So, I mean, if there was one thing, I'm going to put you on the spot here, that you think would be really useful in terms of replayability, do you think like the rank up system is really important? Do you think that it's just about having lots of smaller Easter eggs as well as the big ones so you can kind of mess around in different areas? Is it just the map design? Like, is there one thing in your head that you feel like is just vital for the replayability to really be strong with a map?
Damn, that's a really hard question. I mean, I kind of felt this was a useful feature for a little while. Now, in the life cycle of Black Ops 3, I don't really care too much about it. And it seems very little, and sort of some people don't even really care. But prestiges, I kind of like that.
Ooh.
I kind of like prestiges. I mean, IW still has a ranking system, but there's no prestiging. It's just simply just ranks. But, like, I felt like I achieved something by going through those 10 prestiges and then finally starting to earn my way up in the hundreds.
Yeah, I think...
And you got given, you know, a permanent unlock for a Gubblegum for each prestige. So it kind of rewarded you, even though it was very minuscule, it still was a reward in itself. And IW doesn't have anything like that whatsoever.
Yeah, I think, like, making sure that they not only have a system like that, but also that they aptly reward you throughout it, like making you care about the system, because it's all well and good ranking up, but if there's literally, like, for example, worst case scenario, other players can't see your rank and you get no rewards, obviously no one's going to care. It's just a number. Like, there's not anything associated with it, but if they reward you and they kind of feed you a little bit of the carrot and then dangle it in front of your nose, you're going to be wanting to grind and grind and grind and rank up as much as you can, especially if there's actual physical unlocks that you need to do certain things in the game, maybe even. I mean, there's so much that they could do there. It's just a question of them having thought about it already and implementing it in the goddamn map.
But then you've got to think as well, they could have these like really cool rewards for, I don't know, getting to a certain prestige or whatever, but they have to get the balance right, because you can't have something too ridiculously overpowered that everyone's going to be annoyed at for not being able to get, and for it to be game breaking, although it probably won't, but it's just a lot of factors to think about.
So here's an idea, right? You know how in Modern Warfare 2 they introduced pro perks?
Yes.
What if, because the perk system is something that I guess we'll move on to in a moment, but what if with the perks that they're going to have, assuming that they have perks, I don't think we've necessarily seen any yet, or we might have done, there were like a couple shots in the trailer that are maybe perk machines, hard to say.
Yeah, it's hard to say if they are or if they're something else, we really don't know.
Right, it's pretty ambiguous because we just saw them for like 1 second, but if they had something where maybe there's, I don't know, Mule Kick, for example, and if you get Mule Kick Pro, it means that you can choose which gun is your Mule Kick gun. Or maybe with, I don't know, with Jug, maybe you get 1 extra hit, or something like you regen a little bit faster.
I like that. I like that idea a lot.
Something like, if you've got Jug, you know how in Chronicles they added that sound, the like, meh sound when you're healthy again?
Yeah.
What if you only had that if you had Juggernaut Pro?
Oh, I like that. It's stuff which, like, it will help you out, but it's not life or death.
Right, exactly. Like, that's not gonna be the ultimate game changer and ruin the experience for people that don't have it. It's just like a nice quality of life thing that means that the player's a little bit happier. I feel like that would be cool, and it would be a great reward, amazing. So something like that would be cool. But, I mean, I guess the question is whether they're going to make perks at all important or not.
Yeah, that's the next thing. That's the next thing we need to talk about, is if they're going to have an importance on the perks, and if they're going to have a good selection of perks as well, because over the years of Zombies, we've had some pretty good perks and then some absolutely useless perks.
fully tragic material.
Very tragic. And
Yeah.
I guess me and Milo were speaking about this the other day, and it's like, as we've gone through with zombies, it feels like perks are less important. Like, they're obviously something you're going to need to have in order to survive, but they don't feel as important. And when you have stuff like Perkaholic, and then Ghosts and Skulls, and then Director's Cut, which just gives you the perks by default, you sort of forget that the perks are even there. You're just like, well, there you go. So, yeah, good perk selection importance. How would you spin that in terms of how you'd want that to focus on the gameplay?
Right. I mean, I think the difficult thing, and remind me to come back to something, I'm going to give you a keyword, Lee Ross. Remind me to come back to Lee Ross in just a second, right?
Right, I remember that, Lee Ross.
The wavy hair will do it for you. So, I think the issue with perks right now is that it's a system that has literally been around since 2009. When Verrucht came out, we saw perks for the first time, and all of our minds were blown.
Yep.
Now, it's a bit of an outdated system. It's something that's been around for so long that it has kind of just become, like, commonplace, but at the same time, it's part of what makes zombies zombies, and to get rid of them entirely would feel really weird. So, finding that balance once again, understanding the player base, all of that we've already talked about, is a tricky scenario, that's for sure.
It's very tricky.
I think one of the things that would be really nice to see is a selection of Fate and Fortune cards, or Gobblegums, or whatever they're going to have in the next game, whatever their, I'm assuming, new system is going to be, if they implement it in such a way where your perks don't instantly feel useless, you're not just given them willy-nilly, because this is the Lee Ross thing that I was going to say.
Right.
Lee Ross, when we were at Infinity Ward, was talking about how some people just use Perkaholic every game, and that ruins the experience, so we don't have that in Infinity Ward Zombies. And then I was like, well, a director's cut, mate. And he was just like, I'm Lee Ross, sunglasses emoji. Okay, I'm being a bit facetious, but you take my point that, like, it's all well and good being like, we don't use Perkaholics, or we don't give the player that kind of option. But you can slip and slide towards that direction, and it can still ruin things. And
True.
I feel like just being really strict about what the Fate and Fortune or Gobblegums do in the next game is going to be vital to the perks feeling important, feeling fun, and having a purpose, I guess.
Yeah, like, we can talk a little bit about the community's responses and wants on perks, because if you go back to just before IW came out, we learned that there's going to be PhD Flopper returning as Bomb Stoppers, which I will admit was a great addition. I think it's fair to say no one will argue that that was a bad perk to bring in. But then you've got, like, sort of new perks like Trailblazers, which is utterly useless.
Yeah,
it was a great idea, and, you know, Back to the Future reference, it's cool, whatever, but it was a really useless perk.
And I think that that is an exact perfect example of them somewhat misunderstanding the community, because they saw the hype for Banana Colada, and they were like, well, we can do this. We can deliver. We're giving the fans what they want. But something that Jason Blundell has said many times to me in the conversations I've had with him is that you can't always give the fans what they want. You have to figure out what they need and give them that instead. Or, even better, what they're going to need 6 months from now, or whenever they start dev and whatever the lead time is on that. Because Trailblazers, while it filled the, oh, they've got Banana Colada in here, cool, kind of niche.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily the best design decision, I felt like.
Yeah.
Because it was just like a random perk that no one buys now, and I mean, you get like a, I forget what the, like you get the director's cut perks or what have you, or maybe you get all your perks from doing Ghosts and Skulls. Most people remove Trailblazers at this point. They actually take it off.
Yeah, I'm one of the people that would do that, because
same here.
You get it. You like the idea of sliding around the map at times, and you're like, oh, I've got this the last zombie behind me. God damn it, I just killed it by accident because I didn't mean to.
Yep, it's so frustrating. It's just not really ever useful, and I don't know, man. It's just, well, actually, you know what? Speaking of things that aren't useful, what on earth was going on with the wonder weapons in Infinite Warfare Zombies?
Yeah, so when it comes to IW, I'm pretty sure everyone watching will agree that Spaceland was a very strong start in the wonder weapon department. It was very creative, very, very clever, and the quests weren't that, like, they weren't long-winded in the sense of
Right.
it took ages for you to get them, and with Director's Cut you can now get them out the box pack-a-punch, so it makes them even more fun to use. But we go through Rave, they had the bows. Now there's instantly a little bit of backlash there because there was a DLC one that also had bows for the first time.
Yeah, not mentioning any names. Like, I will never understand that decision, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you can't even compare the bows from Horizon to Raven the Redwoods. Like, complete different caliber. Just, they're so useless in times. There's literally only one bow that I feel is even worth using. That's Ben Franklin. And even then, it's not great. And then, as we go through the season, it just got worse. Like, Shaolin Shuffle, we had the katana, which, don't get me wrong, is really cool, and the nunchucks, but it doesn't feel like a wonder weapon. And then we get to...
it does not fill that niche.
And then we get to Attack, where you have the Mad, and they had to actually patch that to make it better, because it was awful.
Legit, what the hell were they thinking?
Yeah.
What on earth? When it stops one-hit killing, and just, like, I'm just so confused by that gun.
Yeah.
Like, I will forever be mystified as to what they thought was good about the gun.
There's literally nothing. Like, there's so many opportunities where they could have made the gun better. Like, you aim at stuff and you have this weird sort of vision on this sort of, like...
Right.
You know what I mean?
Scanner.
Little scanner.
It's
that
like
could
a
have...
little radar type, like, ping
that could have been used for something else. That they could have had an upgrade to it to make it... Yeah, I mean, they do have it, but it's like... It just doesn't feel like an actual wonder weapon.
Oh,
you don't
yeah,
get
that's
it.
What it was. It was on the thing, it wasn't a radar, it was like a chemical compound.
Yeah.
And they could so easily have made you use some chemical that you were using for the bomb step, and then just put them in the gun and upgrade the thing and make it good. But
exactly.
No, they did nothing at all. Like, I'm triggered. But regardless, I think the point is taken, right? That Infinite Warfare started really strong, and then went down a rabbit hole that I don't think anyone was really on board with.
Yep.
And it just makes me a little hesitant because there are some really goddamn cool wonder weapons in Black Ops 3 Zombies and just sort of Treyarch Zombies in general, and if they're never matched at all, then it's going to be a bad sign for the mode. Like, I want to see the Tesla weapons that they've been talking about.
Yeah.
Because there's been a very brief little mention of them here and there. Game Informer mentioned the Tesla weapons, but they didn't get them, unfortunately. They mentioned them, though, and they said, I think it was like round 11 or something, they nearly built them. I want those things to make me feel like a god.
Yeah.
It's just so important.
By the sounds of it, it sounds like you're going to be a god. You're going to have this just electrifying power in your hands.
I'm hoping so, mate. That sounds freaking awesome. But
yeah, when I first heard about it, I was like, Wonder Waffle?
Nah, plus. Yeah. I mean, overall, I think wonder weapons are something that I can live without if the rest of the game is really strong. But it's just a nice touch. That feeling of spinning the box and seeing the Wunderwaffe pop out and just being like, oh my goodness, yes!
Yeah,
like,
the familiarity,
it's a good feeling,
just like, yes, this is going to get me through this. This is going to be great. And I guess
your friends next to you, and they're jelly, and they're just like, I wanted the Wunderwaffe, god damn it! Exactly. That's always a good feeling.
I guess another thing to touch on as well, it's not on the same topic as wonder weapons, but it's still weapons, and I guess you can look at Black Ops 3 and how pretty much any weapon in that game can become the best gun in the game. Like, you can take any wall weapon, double pack-a-punch it, and you're golden for the rest of the game. And I feel like, as great an addition as that was, it sort of made all the guns feel very sort of like... Nothing felt more special than the other, because any gun could be turned into a super weapon.
And it's like, I could take the Ray Gun Mark II, or I could take a Cuda. I'm gonna take the Cuda, because the Cuda can get dead wire. Like, it's I don't know.
And I can buy ammo for it off the wall.
Exactly. Like, it's a weird spot where they've made certain guns that used to make you feel like an absolute beast, make you feel like you might as well just be buying something else, and I don't know, it's unfortunate, but if they can get that right, and a couple of the other things that we've talked about right, they're going to be in such a good position. It's just a question of making sure that they, like, actually physically get there to some extent at least. I mean, I'm hoping, man. I'm so hopeful.
And here's the thing: if this first map isn't exactly the well, I mean, they have to get this one right. Like, there can't be a first Zombies map where it doesn't kick things off with an absolute smasher. But even
imagine if Raveland was if Spaceland was Rave, things would have been so different for IW. Like, it would have just been so much less well received. So yeah, they got to get it right, man.
Oh boy, I don't even want to think. But even if they don't necessarily hit it right on the head, they've still got the DLC season, and it's so hard to even predict where they're going to go with the sort of theme and story of World War II Zombies in the DLC.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, it's all well and good getting the base map right, but there is also so much importance resting on DLC 1, and we have no clue what their plan is right now. We don't know if it's going to be horror still. It's a mystery. So, I mean, I hope that the story's interesting in the first map, so that wherever we go in the future is still interesting, but only time will tell, man. Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. And this is their first zombie outing. Technically, Exo Zombies was theirs, but it was co-created by Raven. So it kind of wasn't their own thing. So I think they can definitely look at what went wrong with that and hopefully not make the same mistakes again. But like we mentioned earlier at the start of the video, we've got another video very similar to this over on Milo's channel. I have it linked down below in the description. If you've got some time, definitely go over and watch that, because it's always fun to it's just fun to just chat to you, you know?
Hell yeah, man. I feel the same way. It's always nice having a bit of a chin wag and...
Oh, I feel loved.
The game that we both love so much. So yeah.
Yeah. Right, we'll wrap things up there. I hope you guys enjoyed.
That was just like, I wasn't sure if you were going to go. I was like, okay, let's go for it. Yeah.
On Discord, you went super quiet. I was like, has he cut out? What do I do?
My camera is about to die, but let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap things up there.
Watching the video, like we've said, and see you on my video as well. Toodles.
Bye.